I once had an abortion. When I found out that I was pregnant, I cried hysterically until the doctor told me that when people fall pregnant, they can either continue being pregnant or have an abortion. He had me at abortion.
A few years after the abortion, I had what many call a spiritual awakening, which meant that I would travel more than 400 kilometers from Johannesburg to Bloemfontein, where I would begin my training and initiation process to become a traditional healer. So as many might know, traditional and cultural spaces and practices are still very much riddled and rooted, in patriarchy. Similarly, as traditional healing practices become more accessible to women and queer people, there's a discourse around what is truly the way of our ancestors and what is just simply convenient for custodians of the patriarchy. So a few months now into my new life as a traditional healer, I then decide that, I'm ready. I'm ready to extend myself. So I make this announcement that, my services are now available to the public, but with the disclaimer that this does not include cis-het men. And this is where things just got interesting for me, because I got a lot of questions, particularly about why it is or how it is that I could say that my services or my practice is inclusive if I am leaving out a certain demographic. And while in intentionally creating a safe space for women and people who are sexually and gender diverse, I had to interrogate what this safety looks like for me first, and I found that as a queer woman, I am constantly seeking to create a reality that doesn't include cishet men. So my practice as an extension of my politics is a space where people like me, people who are trans, people who are intersex, people who are non-binary, people who are queer, people who are black women can show up and be held and be cared for outside of the realities of cis heteronormativity.
Ke nna Mmalehlonya Tshwaedi, and then ka lebitso la badimo ke Malepena Motswahai, my great grandmother. I think Bungoma is the center of my life. I am a mother to an 8-year-old, ke kobela to a multiple of people, but I'm also an academic and a very smart girl. I need to do that just to settle myself, just to ground myself a little bit. So, bonkgono ba rona had ways, very traditional ways of aborting. Monna hae o tla ba ile mining, a lo sebetsa mining. Grandmother o thola motjhaufa wa hae, o thola boyfriend, and then she gets pregnant. Now the husband is coming back, and the math is not, the weeks and the months are not ha di kopane, you know. So I need to now abort because my husband is going to find out that I've been having a boyfriend on the side. And this is from a very heteronormative, yes, lens, right? Okra, the vegetable, e re jang, e kgona ho etsa hore ngwana a ska dula ka popelong ya mme wa hae, you know. Ke tsebe hore I won't be pregnant. Ha monna ka khutla di mining, we can start over. It's like a clean slate. It's like you're waving a wand and everything e qala qalong, you know. So in terms of people saying that abortion is murder, number one, you're wrong, because one, abortion and miscarriage in terms of badimo, it falls in the same realm. Haba, they don't differentiate. Horena, was it initiated by you? Kapa, was it spontaneous? So when I fell pregnant with my first child, I was 22, because I gave birth to her at 23. And I knew I was not ready for a child. I did not want a child at that point in my life. There were so many things that I wanted to do. I could see my career, I could see my whole life unfolding in front of me. But now I have a child to take care of, and it's going to slow down the progress in a kiponela yona, you know. So I kept this child out of guilt, out of indoctrination, out of socialization. Ering wa bolaya, you're a murderer. If you have an abortion, you are murdering somebody. And then later on, so I had my baby at 23. Katsamaya ka lo thwasa when I was 25. As I'm interacting with badimo ba ka, I'm seeing how forgiving they are. I am seeing how gracious they are towards me. I'm seeing their love. You know, they see me beyond what I see myself to be, you know. So I fall pregnant, and I knew this pregnancy is not something that I want to live with, because Nale, the father of the child, we were not on good terms. Nerelwana, you know, it was a very toxic environment. And Haike Sheba, I was like, this is not where I want a child to grow up. I already have a child, and then there's going to be a second person who comes into the situation. Number one, uting, and then number two falls into this toxic pattern. So I opted. I was very scared. I was judging myself because I thought badimo ba ka are judging me. So ka tsamaya ka laita dikerese tsa ka ba jwetsa badimo hore I cannot do this. I can't. This is not a pregnancy I'm going to carry full term. Ke kopa le ntshwarele. I am going to terminate this pregnancy. And I went and I terminated. And after I terminated, my paternal grandmother in particular, and she was like, oh, okay, you can't do this? All right. Mamela, we need to have a cleansing for you, for your emotional state. Number one. Number two, we need to have a cleansing for your energetic state, right? Number three, physically, it's going to be sore. It's going to be very painful, and you need to be soothed. You need soothing throughout that. I'm a witch. Already I function on the periphery of society. So society doesn't care very much for me. The values that I want to promote are that before you are yourself, you need to relate to other people. And when you relate to other people, which is what basically bongaka is. O sheba botho ba motho before you see whatever else they have, whatever else they've done.
Busisiwe Babaza. I am a traditional healer. Ngokwedlozi ndibuko kodbaledi sizokwamkhebane. Ihamba nomkhulu njengeya insizwa yakamazwi. And I am a copywriter by day and I ride on brooms by night. Black radical intersectional feminism is the tenet of every single thing that I do. I'm always going to start with my queerness. I'm always going to start there and say I never knew there was a space for queerness in traditional healing, traditionally speaking, but I never also believed that there was no space. So I didn't see the representation of queer healers, queer young women healers as well. There isn't enough representation, I'd say, around that in terms of when I was growing up and before I came into accepting my calling and becoming a traditional healer. But what I always knew at the depths of my heart is that there's always going to be space. That is, there is space for you know, there is space for differing beliefs, there is space for differing ideologies and values, you know. But in the mainstream, there was always this one particular narrative that was brought forward, and it was always of it's either straight men, older men who are traditional healers. But I think the media revolution also opened up the industry, opened up space for us to know that we are actually there. There is space for all of us, and that space has always been there. It's just that it had been erased because of a particular narrative that was being driven. How I create space and take a stance actually for abortions within my healing practice is that I don't believe abortion, first of all, I don't believe abortion is a taboo thing. First of all, I believe we need to speak very, very openly about it, outside of the practice, inside of the practice, everywhere, because abortion is, number one, a human right, and then it is a woman's right. It is healthcare. That's literally what abortion is. So in knowing that I create space for everything to exist, I also have to know that my Dumba and my ancestors as well create space for abortion, create space for a safer language around abortion, create space for a safer carrying out of procedure. I cannot facilitate an abortion, of which if I could, I would do it, you know, in my practice as well, in the safety of my practice. But because I cannot, I would like to know that the pre-care and the aftercare of abortions is there in my practice. My practice is a safe space for anyone who wants to carry out an abortion, for anyone who wants knowledge on how ancestors view abortion, on how I view abortion, as long as kuko is safety and umtu can do what is right for them and what is healthy for them and what is safe for them. What is commonly believed about abortions and ancestors is that a child is a gift from ancestors. It's a gift from God. So should you do an abortion, you are denying or you are rejecting isipho esivela kubaphansi, and as such uzoba nesimnyama that is attached to you, to isithunzi sakho. And there are certain procedures that have to be done now that have to first include the paternal family of the child, of the fetus that you were carrying, that include now your family members as well. It's made to be such a humongous deal, of which in my practice, I also see it as a big deal in terms of impilo yalo mntu lo ndithethana naye. The patient who has come into my practice has a big situation in their hands, and what I need to do is facilitate safety and space for it, right? And so what I've come to know is true from my own convening with Idlozi, right? Is that Idlozi, ancestors are people who want the best for you, right? They want you to be safe. They want you to be happy. They want you to thrive. I'd say to the people who are also creating information, spreading certain things, using particular platforms, public platforms, stop making it a fear-based thing. It's our responsibilities as healers, as well as healers who have gone through this journey, who have another kind of understanding. I won't say a better understanding, who have a different kind of understanding of amadlozi, right? Put safety at the forefront of everything. Be a responsible healer. Think about the information that you are putting out, and think about how it benefits the next, the most unknowing person amongst in the room, right? Of course, some people are going to push their own narratives because we all have differing beliefs and ideologies and understandings, right? You have a platform, you are a trusted member of society, people trust you to help them. People, you are in aid, you are in service of Ikhozi, you are in service of Abantu, you are in service of yourself as well, right? And then to the people who are seeking this information, I would say, ask yourself if something feels right or not, right? That's my compass actually in life. I will not participate in something unless it absolutely feels right, it feels safe, I feel comfortable with it, until my soul has that active yes, you know. Ask around also, you know. You might come into Gogo Rebabedi's Ndumba and you get certain information and certain intel, and then also distill that information to what sounds right, what feels comfortable as well, right? Don't trust men. Don't trust them at all.
The legacy of colonialism is such that people like myself are now, disproportionately affected by a lack of access to healthcare, particularly sexual and reproductive healthcare, so by pushing out indigenous healing methods and practices, it then forced us to rely heavily on a system that wasn't meant for us, does not include us, and does not see us, So I am very happy to see that there is a broad conversation around decolonizing healthcare. However, I think there's a great importance, for people like me who are traditional healers or community care workers, just people who weren't, trained in Western medicine, for us to then begin to imagine what our spaces look like when we rid them of the violence that currently, govern them, And for me, this is simply calling bullshit on a lot of the lies, the myths, the misconceptions that we are taught. In unlearning this culture of fear, we can better imagine what, a safe, holistic and decolonial healthcare system looks like. All of the things that we have been taught are a lie. Now what?